To give you an example of how we're making it easier to help organizations introduce those new Apple devices, I'd love to welcome to the stage Jerome Konen from SAP to talk more about Apple Vision Pro. Hey, Jerome.
Good to see you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and take a seat.
All right.
Well, thanks again for joining us in front of our amazing audience here. I'd love to talk a little bit about how SAP has been leveraging Apple Vision Pro within your organization. So if you want to kind of talk to us a little bit about how SAP is managing and configuring the Apple Vision Pro devices across the organization with Jamf.
Well, nowadays, the management of Apple Vision Pro is very similar to the way that we manage our iPhone. And that is thanks to the latest release of visionOS 2.0, and so, which is now giving us the automated device enrollment. And so in order for SAP to be compliant with our security requirements, the first thing that we did is just mirrored what we had been doing for years with the iPhone. And so through Jamf, we are pushing all our SSO certificates. We have our policies and restrictions. We have all the apps that we make available in the Jamf self-service. And also because we acknowledge that not all SAP employees would be eligible to order an Apple Vision Pro device that is owned by the company, we also included it into our BYOD strategy. And this is what our employees, they expect from my team, right? That we deliver those cutting-edge technologies as soon as they're available.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love how you've incorporated in your BYOD strategy. That's brilliant. You touched a little bit about security and compliance. So can you talk to us a little bit about the role Jamf plays in ensuring that security and compliance of Apple Vision Pro devices within your IT environment, especially given the highly regulated industry that SAP is in?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely the security and compliance are some of our top priorities, given those industries that you mentioned that are very regulated. And so the first thing we did after the keynote for the Apple Vision Pro, we knew we had to get ahead of the curve. So we went straight to you, to Jamf, and to Apple to understand how those devices would fit securely into our environment. And so when Apple released visionOS 1.1, we had the MDM framework in it, and Jamf was ready. And this is where you shine at Jamf, because every time there is a new hardware, a new operating system, or a new feature, we're ready because you are ready, right? And so we can deliver this end user support all the way and on day zero.
Awesome. And thank you. It's just a great testament of how many Jamfs are working really hard to make that all happen. So thank you.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, let's talk a little bit about best practices. Do you mind sharing with any best practices that SAP has developed in managing Vision Pro alongside other devices within the organization?
Well, the first thing is really to focus on clearing all the complexity and just focus on the simplicity of that tool. As I mentioned earlier, now we have a similar experience to manage those devices, just like we've done with the iPhone for the past years. So really focus on that. Try to provide the same exact user experience across all your mobile platforms. Then the second tip is that we created some smart groups within Jamf Pro, and that enables us to push the apps that are really adequate for that platform. And then we created some very basic reports into the dashboard of Jamf Pro, which gives us the ability to have real-time data to understand the trend between the devices that are owned either by the company or those that are owned by our employees. And that's pretty much it, right? It's as simple as I just said, right? It just works out of the box.
And sometimes simplicity is really kind of the best way to approach it.
It's the end goal, yeah.
That's awesome. And I guess last question that I'm sure people would be really curious about is around use cases. What kind of use cases has SAP been focusing on, and how do you envision it transforming other workflows such as employee engagement, training, customer engagement?
Well, I think that's a very good question, and that brings so many other more. How do you go from a media consumption device into a content creator device? How do you make sure that this device still has a future in the enterprise and is not just a gadget? And are we creating solutions to problems that actually don't exist? Well, the first use case that I see at SAP every day is with the digital office. Because now our employees are going back to the office a few days a week. They're able to sit anywhere they want in the office. And it doesn't matter if it's today near the HR or within IT, they're going to get the same consistent workspace experience. And so that means your employees are no longer tied to a physical desk, offering them greater flexibility. Then the second use case is that when you wear the Apple Vision Pro, you're actually taking along the greatest privacy with you, because the only person who can look at your screen is yourself, right? And so actually going to JNUC yesterday, I had this funny story. The girl sitting next to me on the plane, I knew that she was working for one of our competitors because she had a water bottle with that logo on it, right? And she took off her laptop and worked on it, and I could see everything she was working on, which was some marketing campaign. And I was like, well, first, that's a cool story to share with the audience today. The second one is that she should really be wearing an Apple Vision Pro for that use case because, yeah, you never know who's sitting next to me. I work for SAP, right? So, so that's a very good use case. And the third one I see is with the remote collaboration. Now, there is a new way where you would have your employees working together or feeling that they're in the same virtual room and their personas, you can see where they're looking at, right? They have this clear direction of working together. They can interact with 3D models and they can visualize very complex data that was very difficult to interact with in the past. So to circle back to your question, I really think it's important for us IT professionals to look at the Apple Vision Pro the same way that we've experienced the first generations of the iPhone, because it takes with it a very new experience, a new way to work that is more immersive, that is more secured, that gives more flexibility, and also a new way to interact with each other.
Yeah, those are some amazing use cases. And everyone, note to self, don't be pulling up our computers on the way home unless you have an Apple Vision Pro. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us and kind of sharing how SAP is leveraging Apple Vision Pro. Let's give Jerome a round of applause. Thank you.